morning, everybody. I am back from my Instagram live, and yesterday was Wednesday. Oh, apparently I can't turn here. Anyways, that was weird. Yesterday was my birthday. Can y'all believe I turned 35 yesterday? I can't even deal with myself. I mean, I can because I feel and I look fabulous. So 35 is great. So I spent the day at the spa. All of my loved ones treated me very, very well. I feel very loved. This morning, I just feel like I just have to accept that this particular season of my life is one where my tear ducts are weaker than they have ever been in my life. Like, I've always been very weepy, just in the sense of easily moved to tears. Thank you. Easily moved to tears. But like, I want to say, like, the 2 weeks leading up to my birthday, and even today, I just am like, wow, I cry a lot. And it's not because I'm sad. It's not sadness at all. It's just very easily emotionally aroused and man, like, always just feeling the feels about stuff. Again, it's not bad. Thank y'all for the birthday wishes. I mean, I just feel like my Pisces moon is evolving to the next level. So this level is tears and the next level is, I guess I'm just gonna walk around like a puddle of water. I mean, I'm just gonna turn into an actual puddle of water. Maybe that's what happens when you reach peak Pisces moon. Anyways, so today is Thursday, February 7th. Yesterday was February 6th, and Mercury entered Aquarius. So we're not quite there, but we're almost there. And where there is the first Mercury retrograde of the year. Happy birthday, Lisa Harmony Health. We are approaching the first Mercury retrograde of the year. I'm gonna have to look at my calendar for the exact dates, but all I can really remember right now, I don't even know where my phone is. What I can remember is that all of the Mercury retrogrades this year straddle. Hey, Britt, thank you. All of the Mercury retrogrades this year straddle two signs. So the first Mercury retrograde begins. Let me just tell y'all and not speculate, because I want to tell you the date that Mercury is going to enter its retrograde shadow. So I'm bringing it up in this conversation about Mercury entering Aquarius because Mercury stations direct in Aquarius, which means that we are not that far out. So let's see. Mercury stations retrograde March 5th. So that means Mercury is direct March 28th at, and again, let me just show y'all. This is my trusty 2019 sidereal planetary transits iCal. So if you download this, all of these events will be in your calendar, and when you click this event like Mercury direct on, what is this, March 28th, you'll see the degree there is 21 degrees Aquarius. So let me look real quick and tell y'all when Mercury reaches 21 degrees Aquarius. And I'm trying to drive safely, multitasking. I'm about to come to a stop, so I'm not going to hurt myself. Okay, so this is the beginning of the third week in February. So Mercury's going to enter its retrograde shadow on Monday, February 18th. So we'll have a little while of Mercury in Aquarius. It'll leave Aquarius on February 24th, and then it will enter Aquarius again on March 14th. So the hallmark of all of the Mercury retrogrades this year, and I believe there are 3. If you have your 2019 21st degree, well, yeah, we just had a new moon at 21 degrees. I can't think of anything else at that degree. Degrees that are actually being triggered hard this year, that 3 degrees of fixed signs is back at the last Mercury retrograde, but let me get there. So the hallmark of all of the Mercury retrogrades this year is that they begin in water signs and end in air signs. So it's kind of like, oh, look at you so in your feelings, boo, and then Mercury goes back in the air and you like, right? It's like you've been underwater too long, and then like you finally come to the surface in that gasp of air. And so let me take this moment to talk about air and water, and then that'll segue me into talking about Mercury in Aquarius as a general transit that we'll be experiencing for the next couple of months. So water is biology. Water is not your feelings. Your feelings are a consequence of your being alive. Feelings are a secondary and tertiary experience of being in a body. Water is the fact that you're actually in a body, right? So water is your blood, life force. It is the ties that bind, all of those things. Air is idea and concepts. So air represents the language we use and the symbols we use to talk about the earth, talk about our actions, and talk about our bodies. Okay, so air is inherently social. One of the cool things about traditional astrology, and when I say traditional astrology, I mean conceptions of the zodiac that I will not say originated, but definitely were talked about and theorized about in some of the text written, during 300 to 800 AD, and then of course again a little bit later around the medieval area, is that they have all of these really integrated systems for how to understand the zodiac and the meanings implied by the different designations that we give the signs. So there's something called triplicity. Triplicity is the grouping of the 12 zodiac signs into 4 groups. And the 4 groups are the 4 elements. So it's called triplicity not because there are 3 groupings of signs, but because there are 3 signs in each of the 4 groupings. Okay, so there are 3 fire signs, which are Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo. There are 3 earth signs, which are Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. There are 3 air signs, which are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And there are 3 water signs, which are Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. So triplicity is talking about the 3 signs in each elemental group. So there is a kind of dignity, and dignity means authority, right? Or rank. There is a kind of dignity called dignity by triplicity. And you'll see why I'm saying this in a minute. Just hold tight while I'm doing this whole explanation. This is not a caveat. So there is a kind of dignity, again, which is authority or rank, meaning a kind of designation that allows us to prioritize and create a hierarchy of the planets in our chart. And that is by the placement of a sign. So a placement of a planet in a sign. So there is a kind of dignity called dignity by triplicity, and this is a minor dignity. So the major dignities are a planet being in its own sign. That's a major or inherent kind of authority. There is a major dignity called exaltation, which is a planet being in the sign of a planet that is sympathetic to its cause or agenda. Triplicity is one of the minor dignities along with term and face. And triplicity is when a planet is in a sign where it has some type of elemental authority. So we're going to focus on air signs today since we're talking about Aquarius. The triplicity rulers, right, or the planets that have authority over all air signs are Saturn and Mercury, right? So we can say that anytime Saturn is in an air sign, so that's going to be Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra, Saturn has dignity by triplicity. Now that's going to make a whole lot of sense when you realize that Saturn is also at home in Aquarius and it is exalted in Libra. So there's something about air, ideas, concepts, symbols, consensus, right, that it lends itself to Saturn. Anytime Mercury is in an air sign, it has dignity by triplicity. So that is going to be, again, Mercury in Gemini, where it is at home, Mercury in Aquarius, and Mercury in Libra, okay? Any planet in an air sign is going to be under the triplicity authority of Mercury or Saturn. And there's some other rules about how that designation plays out in real life, but we're going to leave it there. So this is all to say that Saturn and Mercury and what they represent really teach us what it means to be an air sign. So Mercury teaches us about symbols as a tool we use to communicate or think about the real world around us, what we think, and the experiences of our bodies. Saturn represents the walls and ceilings of the world around us and the walls and ceilings of our mind. Saturn represents the limits of the body and the limits of consciousness and the limits of the mind. The limits of the body is death, and the limits of the mind is not knowing. Ooh, it is foggy and wet out here. You would have thought it was April in Chicago right now. So Saturn and Mercury, right? If we combine those two planets to tell us what air signs are about, we would say that air signs are about using language and symbols to define the walls and ceilings of our minds and the world around us. This goes back to something that I said before about the power of language, and when I was talking about Gemini and how language is more than just a designation or a name for something like book or apple. Language is a consensus around how we understand something and how we socially and collectively and culturally perceive something. So calling me black is not just a description of my skin color, because my skin is not black. My skin is actually brown. So air signs as language, air signs as words and symbols, air signs as how we define the walls and ceilings of perception collectively, is really saying that language is a tool used to contextualize our experiences. So Aquarius. Aquarius is the home of Saturn, and it is, what was I trying to say? An air sign, yes. So keeping with this conceptualization of air signs that I've just laid out, we know then that as an air sign, Aquarius is saying something to us about designation, something to us about language. It is saying something to us about how we define the walls and ceilings of our experience. And when I say walls and ceilings, I'm really saying how far you can go either due to perception or real limits. Aquarius talks to us about self-perception. Self-perception, meaning awareness of a sense of self, only exists when you have the capacity to do so. What gives you the capacity to have a sense of self, to have an awareness of yourself, meaning to have an awareness of your individuality separate from the herd or tribe, right? Separate from hierarchy. What allows you to do that is language. But ultimately, as I've said before, language is a consensus. So being able to actually think about yourself, right, I mean, like, I'm going really deep philosophically here, but I really want you to wrap your mind around this. How are you able to think about yourself? Animals don't think about themselves. Animals don't have language to think about themselves, right? To think about yourself is to see yourself as separate from your environment, and to feel your body and to experience your mind as separate from the projection of the world around you. So what Aquarius is really teaching us is that there is a sense of self I have that is separate from the world around me, that I can objectify a sense of self. To objectify is to give something word or language or perception, right? It's to remove it from yourself and put it over here and make it an object. An object is something that you can look at. So to be able to look at yourself, and I don't mean in a mirror, I literally mean to be in your mind, to be your mind and think about yourself in your mind is really kind of deep if you think about it. And it's something very unique to humans. This is why I talk about air signs and how we conceptualize them in the sidereal zodiac as helping to articulate what makes humans different from animals. Because animals act purely on instinct, right? Purely on, is it safe or is it dangerous? Now, we can observe animals engaging in what we would say something pleasurable or something fun, but those are really our cultural designations and our interpretation of their behavior. A dog is not sitting around thinking, oh, this is so fun, because they don't even have the words to say that. All they have is the sensations in their bodies. So again, air signs, now we can see, are helping us to experience ourselves separate from the sensations of our body, separate from instinct. When we think about rationality and language, what we're really saying is that there is instinct, which is the drive to stay alive. And that instinct helps us to designate things as either safe or dangerous. But air signs allow us to find the gray area between those kind of primal ways that our body interprets the world around us. And even the interpretations our bodies have of the world around us are rooted in something social, DNA, something inherited, etc. So now we have air signs teaching us about how we can perceive the world and experience ourselves separate from instinct, right? Because you don't think about instinct. Instinct just is. Instinct is, woo, that was scary, or right? Instinct is just that primal response that has nothing to do with your opinion of it. It is your body interpreting. And then your mind, your brain sends signals and your body responds, right? So if something makes you if something makes you feel fearful, it's very hard to not feel fearful. And when I say feel, I mean it's very hard for you to will your heart to stop beating fast. It's very hard for you to will your pupils from not dilating. It's very hard for you to stop the physiological reaction your body has when it is observing something as dangerous. But what you can do is talk yourself out of it, right? So there we go again. Language as a tool to override instinct. Air signs as a means to overriding instinct. Now, the last thing I want to say about Aquarius is in reference to Leo and in reference to Taurus. So that last one was really in reference to Scorpio, right? That square between Aquarius and Scorpio is saying that Scorpio is instinct. It's primal. It is. There is no question. There is no conversation. There is no rationalization. It just is. You cannot stop the physiological responses. That's what everybody said. Everybody liked Mars and Aries until this morning. You cannot stop the physiological responses that your body has instinctually to the stimuli around you. That's what Scorpio teaches us. But Aquarius says, actually, I can think about my sense of self. I can theorize an idea of who I am. I can think about myself and the world around me separate from instinct, right? Because ultimately, I have the final say over who and what I am. Even if my instinct says I am afraid, my mind can say, you're not afraid, Dana. It's okay. So that's one side of Aquarius, and I think is especially relevant to Mercury in Aquarius. The contrast that Aquarius offers to Leo is self-determination, personal dominion, as opposed to hierarchies of authority that are established by authority figures in our lives, out in the world, hierarchies out in our lives. So being able to designate who we are and to see ourselves separate from our place in the hierarchy. Again, this is different from animals. Animals don't say, oh no, now I am alpha male because I've decided that I am. No, it's like you have to fight for that, right? Animals can't say, animals can't talk themselves out of their instinct to procreate, and they cannot talk the alpha male out of conquering them to procreate. There's no conversation, there's no negotiation. But as humans, we're constantly negotiating with our role in the hierarchy, and we theorize concepts of ourselves in order to overturn our role in the hierarchy. So if there was a designation of black and white in the animal kingdom, there would be no say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. That hierarchy exists in a very primal way. But as humans, we can override the hierarchy. We can create fake hierarchies that have nothing to do with anything biological or primal, and we can override the hierarchies that are established. And again, because those are social. So that's a contrast to both Leo and Aquarius and Scorpio, as I've just lined out. So really what we can say about Mercury in Aquarius is that we're having conversations about the sense of selves we create that override hierarchy. We are having conversations about our self-determination and personal sovereignty, our personal dominion. So we are thinking about how we name ourselves, right? Culture says, and this has changed, but for a time when a woman got married, she took on her husband's last name, right? That is the way that it goes in the hierarchy. The male in a heterosexual relationship or marriage gets the right of first refusal, right? He gets to name the wife and he gets to name the children by his last name. But Mercury in Aquarius, for example, would say, no, I actually get to keep my own last name, and I don't have to subject myself to the hierarchy of male domination just because culture says so. So again, in the animal kingdom, there is no withdrawing from the hierarchy. There is no conceptualizing a way of being or a sense of self that is separate from the hierarchy, because it's primal, it's brute force. It's not these complex institutions that are arranged, to aggregate power. It's just like, I'm the biggest and I'm the strongest, or I've managed to intimidate all the other males of my species, so I get to be top dog. Like, that's how it works. Now, obviously, we do that as humans, but again, Aquarius teaches us that even if someone designates themselves as the president or the king or the ruler or the head of the household, that we can always conceptualize a sense of self and reclaim our personal dominion, reclaim our power. Personal dominion means this is my territory. My mind is my territory. Okay? So during this time of Mercury in Aquarius, which is really long, rewind to the beginning of this video if you missed the dates that I've given you. Mercury in Aquarius is definitely a time where we are using language to reclaim personal power. We are using language to claim personal dominion. We are using language to establish authority over ourselves. It's really saying that I don't have to see myself, talk about myself, or think about myself through the lens of your authority, whoever your is in your life, through your designation of who I am. Aquarius is rebellious in that way only. It's an intellectual, conceptual rebellion. It's not an actual fight, right? It's not like, let me wear quirky clothes, because it's not about appearance. It's about me recognizing that anytime I am encountering authority out in the world, it is my decision, my choice to honor and subject myself. That person must be drunk. To honor and subject myself to that authority. It's a decision I make. right? Nobody can force me. And even if I decide to subject myself to an external authority, right, I still have the final say. So some questions I would think about for you is, how do you use language to reclaim your personal dominion? How do you use language to say, I am my own territory? My mind and my perception of myself is not limited by someone else's designation of who I am. You may be designated as daughter. You may be designated as oldest child. You may be designated as black. You may be designated as felon. You may be designated as queer. You may be designated as anything. But how do you use words to reclaim dominion over yourself? Right? How do you do that? So those are my thoughts for Aquarius today. I'm late and I have to go, but I'm going to put this up on YouTube and you guys can watch it later. Thanks for all the birthday wishes. I hope you guys have a happy Thursday. I was about to say Tuesday because clearly I have no sense of what time or day it is. I hope you're warm where you are and dry. See you guys later. Bye.